You know, our whole modern world pretty much runs on a few critical arteries. Today, we're going to explore one of the most vital ones, and a plan to create a detour that seems almost impossible. This is the dream of bypassing the Strait of Hormuz.
Our whole story really kicks off with just one number, 20%. Every single day, a fifth of the entire planet's oil supply has to squeeze through one tiny stretch of water. It's just an unbelievable amount of economic power concentrated in one very, very small and very vulnerable spot. So, just think about it. What would happen if that flow just stopped? And look, this isn't some far-off abstract problem. It would mean an almost instant spike in what you're paying at the pump and for shipping. And that means the price of just about everything, from your groceries to a new phone, would skyrocket basically overnight. The stakes really couldn't be any higher.
Okay, so to really get a handle on that vulnerability, we have to zoom in on the map and take a look at what makes this one single point so incredibly fragile.
All right, so here it is, the Strait of Hormuz. It is the only way by sea to get from the Persian Gulf out into the open ocean, which makes it one of the most strategic, most important choke points on the entire planet. But get this, that 21-mile width, it's kind of misleading, because when you actually look at the lanes where the ships have to travel, they narrow down to just 2 miles wide in each direction. That is a ridiculously tight squeeze for some of the biggest ships in the world.
And then think about who relies on this passage. The list of nations is just staggering. For these huge energy producers like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and the UAE, Hormuz isn't just, one of their options. For them, it's pretty much their main, and in some cases their only, way to get their product to the global market.
The amount of oil we're talking about here is it's hard to wrap your head around. We are talking about 20 million barrels of oil every single day. That's a fifth of what the entire world uses, all of it funneling through that one tiny corridor. So with all this risk packed into one tiny spot, it's no surprise that people have come up with some pretty bold, almost sci-fi ideas to get around it. It's a radical idea for a bypass that could literally change the map.
On paper, the idea looks almost laughably simple. I mean, look at the map. You see Oman's Musandam Peninsula just sticking out there into the strait. So why not just cut a canal straight through it? Ships could completely avoid that narrow, tricky part of the strait and just sail right out into the open ocean. Simple, right?
Well, of course, going from a simple line on a map to the messy, real world, that's where this dream crashes right into a massive, mountainous reality.
Yeah, this quote right here just nails it. What looks like a neat little shortcut on a two-dimensional map is actually one of the most rugged, difficult landscapes you can imagine.
See, the thing is, the Musandam Peninsula isn't some flat, sandy desert. It's the Hajar Mountains. We're talking sharp limestone peaks that shoot up over 6,500 feet, pretty much straight out of the sea. You wouldn't just be dredging mud, you'd be literally blasting your way through entire mountains.
I mean, the scale of this project, it would be almost unimaginable. To carve out a channel that's deep enough and wide enough for today's giant supertankers, engineers would have to blast and then haul away millions and millions of tons of solid mountain rock.
And then, of course, there's the cost. The recent expansion of the Panama Canal, that was a huge deal, right? It cost about $5 billion. A Musandam Canal would probably cost hundreds of billions, making almost any other infrastructure project in history look tiny by comparison.
But okay, let's just pretend for a second that money's no object. The mountains are still only half the problem. You still have to deal with the human element, the politics, and the sheer practicality of the whole thing.
First up, and this is a big one, this land belongs to Oman, and the Omani government has absolutely zero official plans to build a canal. For them, this beautiful, rugged area is all about tourism and developing local ports, not creating some kind of superhighway for oil tankers.
To even attempt something like this, you'd need this crazy level of international cooperation, huge amounts of private investment, and rock-solid security agreements. In the end, the political mountains might be even harder to move than the real ones.
But all of this, the cost, the mountains, the politics, it all points to the biggest, most fundamental flaw in the entire plan. Because even if you could actually build it, you might just be swapping one problem for another one that's almost identical, just way more expensive.
Here's the thing. A canal doesn't eliminate the choke point. It just moves it a few miles. You're just trading a natural bottleneck for an artificial one. And that man-made canal, it's just as vulnerable to a ship running aground or an attack or some kind of disaster. So you'd have spent hundreds of billions of dollars just to create a new, single point of failure.
So if the canal is basically an impossible dream, why are we even talking about it? Well, because this grand failure of an idea actually reveals something really profound about the geography that our modern world is built on.
The simple truth is that our entire super-complex global economy rests on a handful of physical spots on the map. These passages, like Hormuz or the Suez Canal, they weren't chosen, they were dictated by geography. They are the fixed roads for almost everything we use and consume, and there are very few, if any, good detours.
And that's really what makes this Musandam Canal idea so compelling, isn't it? It's more than just a big engineering project. It represents this ultimate human ambition to just overcome a geographical problem, to literally redesign the map to fix one of our problems.
But reality is stubborn. Mountains don't move easily. And politics, well, politics can be even more immovable. So this huge, flawed dream leaves all of us with a really critical question. Just how fragile is the map that our entire world depends on?